Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Tabletop.
I'm still making stickers.
That was why don't we talk about...
That was Rio from the sticker from the sticker farm.
Yeah, from our sticker farm out back. I'm Nick, your host. Who else is at the table today?
It's me, Franco, playing Franco.
It's me, Rio, making stickers.
Identity theft is not a joke.
And that's Shade.
I'm Shade.
Yeah, cool. Today, we wanted to talk a little bit about whether or not the system you use actually defines the experience you're going to have, the characters that you can play as, all this kind of stuff.
Does system matter?
Does system matter? Exactly, Franco. But
there's a lot of blog posts about that.
Yeah, exactly. But we wanted to start with kind of setting the scene with D&D, because it's such a good example, because there's a new sort of rules update, there's the old 5e, but there's also past versions, and does it really matter which one you use to get an experience? Why don't we go over to our D&D correspondent, Shade Shepherd? What's up?
Hi, I'm joining you here from outside the offices of Wizards of the Coast, where they have just handed me a little bit of money to tell you about this new property that they've acquired.
They finally paid
Dungeons
him.
and Dragons.
They finally did.
Yeah.
Get that bag.
We gotta get him his shill license.
The shill license.
It's been shilling for free.
No, so you know, one D&D finally just we got our monster manual out, which really enjoy the, you know, are there problems? Yeah, it's a fucking TTRPG. There's going to be problems everywhere. But have been reading through one D&D, which I know you're running a game in currently, Nick.
Is it called 1D&D?
No, it's not. He just
I'm
keeps
just
calling it 1D&D.
Yeah.
Because
They set up
D&D
that brand.
2024 is fine.
The Dungeons and Dragons 2024 rules update.
Yeah, no thanks. They're just really trying to just get you to call it D&D.
Yeah.
But when there are additions that precede it, you kind of need to specify what the fuck you're talking about.
They've always been really bad about naming stuff. There was the basic set, expert.
Yeah, advanced D&D or whatever.
It's like also we're doing advanced now, and
Redbox.
Redbox. Everybody got mad at you about that one.
Yeah.
And I liked Redbox back in the day. The DVD thing.
That was sick. Yeah, that was my shit. I loved Redbox.
Go to the grocery store, go home with a movie.
Yeah, it's like $1. It's so
nice.
good.
It was
It's so
good.
convenient because then, I got to take it back. I need more food.
Perfect. Is it? Do they still have those, or are they
do.
completely out?
Oh,
They
really?
do still
Wow,
have those.
damn.
Yeah.
There's one at the
would
Stop and
never-
Shop where I get groceries from.
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone standing at
gonna
it.
say, yeah.
It is out of the way in like a corner, but it exists.
Sometimes they put them inside the grocery stores too now.
might
They're
be-
like behind the checkout counter, but they're like on that wall before you leave.
There might be one by my Walgreens.
Yeah.
Near where they hang the witches.
to this day.
Yeah.
I will wax poetic and fondly on the Redbox from when it was relevant, but I will never use one again.
Fair.
So anyway,
No disk drives.
yeah, exactly.
Nowhere to be seen.
D&D. So I am a pretty big fan in general, but I like the updates to the rules system. But I have a general guiding principle at the end of the day that throw to me a game to run or play in any system, and at the end of the day, I will have pretty much the same experience in my mind.
So I won't give you, but not like Fatal. Do you want try that?
Sure, we can do Fatal.
No,
dude.
I'm not gonna do Fatal.
What's fatal?
No, you don't want to know.
Yeah, no.
It's really bad.
No, we don't actually want to do
No,
Fatal.
let's not do
But
Fatal.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but you're making me want to look it up.
Yeah, everybody's free to look it up. We are not going to talk
Yeah,
about it
we're
on
not
this
gonna
podcast.
Okay, cool.
it's shit.
It's very bad.
Oh, great. I won't look it up.
So bad. Look it up.
No,
It's fun.
and am I
There's a fun
being
review about it.
Yeah.
am I being hyperbolic? Yeah, absolutely.
No, you're not. It's really bad.
No, about
yeah.
my actual premise, not
Yeah,
Fatal.
yeah. You wanna
Fatal
have a-
sucks. We're not being hyperbolic about that. Fuck it. But generally speaking, I feel that most every system is going to give you, you're going to have a TTRPG experience.
All right, let's
Similar
take him to
enough
trial.
experience. Yeah.
Dun,
so-
dun, 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 dun.
There are God, it took me like 4 tries to get that intro thing.
Yeah. If anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, we once did a Law and Order style
with
episode or
opening monologue and everything, and I couldn't figure out how a
But
D&D
guys,
core would work.
We've already had so many letters letters of cease and desist from the offices of Dick Wolf. We gotta stop
Dick
that.
Wolf is a real asshole, you know?
Yeah.
More like asshole wolf, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, that's pretty fun.
Anyway,
long walk.
and one of the reasons why we want to use the new D&D rules as an example, as a place to start, is because I'm running a game in that.
Yeah.
And there's really been only one time where I've really bumped up against the change in rules, which I actually consulted with you, Shade, because I was like, I have no idea how to do this, which was so. The rule set kind of says that it's backwards compatible in some ways, but then in certain ways, like the way the druids operate now, are just fundamentally different than they used to. Like the direction of that class has changed a little bit, and how you're being asked to use that stuff also is being changed. Specifically when it comes to wild shape, which is, you know, the second or third level unlock. It is very much like, hey, wouldn't it be awesome if you could do this like 4 times a day instead of once? And what if, you know, it's like less of a big event and you kind of do all these things when you die
Like in the movie.
Exactly, like in the movie. But if you get knocked out as a bird, you're knocked out. And you're not,
And you
like,
fall out of the sky.
Yeah, and like if you
Sick.
pop back, you're sort of not popping back as like a tank with a bunch of HP on top, and still able to really to get in the mess. And so I had a character come up to me.
What?
Like if you wild shape into a dog and you run into battle, they smack you on the head, take out the hit points. You don't just pop back as a human druid or whatever, still fighting. You're unconscious.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's different.
Sorry, now
Because I looked this up and it was the case.
I thought it was just that they had temp HP.
They have temp HP over your normal human
Right, but then it goes into
Yes.
it goes into their basic pool without knocking them out.
So,
Right.
like,
it's only when they become incapacitated that they in the wild shape.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So essentially, instead of getting 80 hit points as a bear or something, you get like 10 temporary HP on top of your normal HP as a person. Yes. And so again, changed, right? The general feel of how that would work. But you can do it 4 times instead of 2 or whatever.
Okay.
And so this was a thing because my player came up to me and was like, hey, this is not the way I was thinking about playing this character. I kind of chose this because of how old 5e did druids. And so we had to kind of work out a way, because he was like, it kind of sucks that I can't run into battle and be this big tank and stuff. And basically Shade was like, hey, it's just like a different thing. This is a new direction. Really, you can't mix them either because of this fundamental change. But that was the only time I've run up against something that really was like, okay, you're either doing this old way or you're doing this new way.
Did they switch to the old druid?
No, they're sort of doing the new way, and the way that I sort of explained to them why this is happening, and they were like, oh, okay, I guess that's fine. And
Because
so we're gonna go with
druids
that.
were the fucking most powerful class. Like you could, I mean, think about our little PvP level 20 thing that we do. If someone's a druid at that table,
Have we ever had a druid?
Yeah. They usually do very well, because you can't fucking get rid of them. They have unlimited wild shapes at level 20 and or whatever, and then it's like, okay, well, I'm a bear again, and whoop bop, it's just constant back and forth getting past.
Whoop, there it is.
Whoop, there it is, exactly.
So
And this is only saying when it comes to our larger conversation around sort of does systems matter. I still don't think so, but the only part that I feel like really makes whether a system matters or not is how do you make your character, and what does it feel like to play different types of characters within the system? Yeah. That's really the only thing that I think actually matters when it comes to the feel as a player at a table.
I disagree.
Yeah, really? Okay, hit us with it.
I think also the way that the game runs and the rules in it also matter.
Yeah.
So,
like, I don't think it's just characters. I think it is also like sort of different tools that you give to the dungeon master and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
Yes, Shade over there in the back.
I have a question about this, because I think
in this, I'm like Sally Jesse Raphael, and you're like a member of the audience.
yes.
Does that sound good?
Hi, longtime fan. Really excited to be here. Am I too close to the mic? No?
Okay, everybody. Okay, get him off the mic. Throw him a t-shirt.
No,
get him out of here.
Get him out of here.
So anyway, this is part of what, in addition to just already having this belief, I think I should actually expand upon this. The system doesn't matter. Your game master matters. That's really where I think this comes in because, and I've run a few systems. I think if you play in my games, it's pretty much the same game no matter what system I'm running in for you.
Yeah.
And I've run in a few of your games, Franco. And I feel like no matter what system I'm playing in with you, it's a Franco game.
Sure.
Like, it doesn't really feel very different for me to be playing with Sora in D&D and have a lot of tools at my disposal versus
whatever that guy's
Fletcher,
name was.
Fletcher, I think his name was, or something to that effect.
And Karen.
It's like Bon Iver may have taken up computer generated like synth stuff as his main instruments, but he still sounds like Bon Iver. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like Bob Dylan. He still sounds like shit. Even when he goes electric, still sounds like shit.
He could write, though.
Yeah, that's why other people do his songs better.
That's right.
I honestly think that the only thing when it comes to systems is just like, yeah, I think it is DM and DM comfort in order to tell their stories. But then I guess it's also just like where the friction points in the system are.
Yeah.
Like when we played Dread, it felt very much to me like a Monster of the Week style game, but the friction points are only at these like very specific moments of like will it happen, will it not happen?
Yeah.
And then when it's in D&D, you're using your friction points a little bit more spread out across the session because you're doing insights, you're doing all the different things.
Yeah, I think it's like I think some games not like, but I like, yeah, okay. I don't know. I get what you mean, Shade, with like the game master being important, because it's sort of like I don't call for skill checks almost ever.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I still do though, because it's still like a useful mechanic in the game at times. But I think like, and also like the players expect it. But I think like if I'm like, it's like certain games, because they're set up a certain way, will lean you into those modes of play.
Yeah.
And so like those sort of like decision points or like crisis moments or saving throws or whatever, where something, okay, it's like, okay, you can try to do this, but you might fail, so roll for it.
Yeah.
And like that's much more interesting and effective or whatever than just being like, I'm going to read a bunch of books. What's the chance of me like finding the information that I'm looking for?
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess roll an intelligence check. Like, doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
It's a luck roll, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, how lucky could you, like, what's the chance? What are the odds of you finding this thing?
That is interesting, because I know that this gets back kind of into your skill. Skills are boring.
I guess I could also see, like, if you're intelligent enough, you know how to do research.
Correct. Yeah.
Something like that.
And that's
I
how I view that. So, but no, I do. I at the same time, luck plays such a. But the luck is represented by the die.
But that luck is so variable, like a D20.
It is swingy. That's true.
It's super swingy.
But that's and then 5e, and whatever current D&D, that is kind of offset with proficiency. So
I think there are some ways where I've seen like in some games, saving throws and attack rolls and stuff, that'll be D20, and then skill checks are always 2d6.
Yeah.
Like I've seen some games that do that, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Or even in original D&D, skill checks were 1d6.
Yeah.
You have a 2 in 6 chance of like checking at doors, looking for traps, whatever, like that type of dumb shit. Or the thief skills were really crazy because they were all percentile based.
Really?
Yeah, it was like a totally different system. It was like, why did you do it this way? It's so stupid. It's a terrible game, guys. Yeah.
Grappling,
it's always been bad.
Grappling was also percentile based.
Oh, okay.
But it was contested, right?
So God, fucking, how did that work? It was like you had to roll. You had to roll on. It was like a D100 that factored in your strength or something like that, and you like had to roll over. And if you were really weak, I forget how it works. So this was really good audio. So make sure to keep this.
Yeah, totally. I will say
old man struggles to remember me.
Great. Recently, I played a new system, which I think you all would love. Called.
I'll be the judge of that.
It's the Arkham Horror System.
Sure.
It's not Call of Cthulhu, but it's essentially.
I don't care about superheroes.
Nice. But it's basically instead where Call of Cthulhu is.
Oh wait. Oh, okay.
Yes. Oh, I thought you were joking.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
That was really stupid.
Oh my God.
I'm just so used to you
Everyone in
guys.
this room thought you made a really good joke.
Wow, I was like,
Damn.
that's a thinker and very funny. And then you were like, oh no, I just.
I didn't know what the hell you were talking about.
He thought it was all about Arkham Asylum and the Scarecrow had taken over.
Yeah. No, you guys just yap about fucking superheroes all the time. And I was like, oh, superheroes again.
Well,
Here's
Arkham
this.
Horror set in
Wait,
the
in this
Cthulhu
room,
verse.
who's watched Madam Web?
Oh, me. I had.
Yeah, only that guy.
Hey, that shit was good. That shit was hilarious. Dakota Johnson is a comedy genius. She's allergic to limes.
Yeah.
Or is she? I don't know. It's very funny.
But the new system is like, whereas Call of Cthulhu is where you run like straight horror, right?
Yeah.
The
Or queer horror.
I fucking knew it.
Yep, you got me. And then
Waiting for that.
Arkham Horror is more to run sort of like the swashbuckling, sort of
Detective?
like more like Indiana Jones detective style
Okay,
in that verse, of like, shooting the Tommy gun out the back of the car or whatever. But it fucking rules because what it has is 6 dice and they're all D6s.
My God, you are such a bro.
The
Fucking rules.
fucking rules, dude. But you put them all on this thing, and then when you're in a scene that's a narrative scene, so non-combat, you can either say like, I want to do this, and then you get to decide how many of the dice you use to try to do it successfully. You're like trying to hit like 4, 5, or 6 on a dice. Maybe you just want to use 1. Maybe you want to use all of them and roll. But when you run out of dice, then your ability to interact with that scene ends. So you can be like, I want to do one really big thing, but I want to succeed most likely. I'm going to roll all my dice. Or you can be like, I run up to the bathroom and check if there's anything usable there. I roll 1, nothing. Okay, I run back down to the kitchen and I check if there's that kind of stuff.
It's like a player-facing luck roll.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, this fucking rocks because it puts a clock on the players when they're making their decisions about how to interact with the DM story.
Yeah.
Which
Okay,
is really,
that's
really cool. Yeah.
How does the pool reset?
So for narrative scenes, when everybody's pool is done, the narrative scene is over when you move on to the next thing. In combat, you get all your dice back at the top of each round of combat.
Okay.
But because you also use dice to resist damage, so it's like, how much do I want to use in my attack? Whereas I might want to save some for defense.
All attack.
That's kind of sick, actually.
Yeah,
You want to have good defense? Don't get hit.
and also, dude, it's so good that there's also like a horror mechanic that whereas instead of like you're going insane, it's like you have a different colored dice that takes one of your slots. And so whenever you re-up at the start of combat and you have a horror dice, you have to start with using that dice, which has bad things attached to it if it rolls bad. So it's like constantly like making your player degrade in usefulness as you obtain more horror.
Just like aging.
Yeah, exactly. It is very much like aging.
Great.
But unlike aging, you can undo it, which is nice. But yeah, so that system, but I will say, felt very much like a D&D or whatever, other than how I was like choosing to do stuff, right?
Yeah, and I mean, so, and obviously, are there differences in the mechanics? 100%. I will think of 10 Candles as like, we loved 10 Candles. Yeah. For those of us who played the straight basic game.
I played the queer one.
There we go.
Oh my God.
Franco, unfortunately, I ran a bastardized version for him, which...
And for Rio. Oh, no.
Well,
I was the only one that... Oh, I forgot Rio was in the other one.
All of you were there for that, but you're the only one that only had that experience. So it was a little different.
Wow, you guys are having alone time. I'm not telling anybody.
I was at Iconet.
You were also there.
Yeah, you told me not to scare you.
Yeah. I will say too that in that case, this is like maybe me disagreeing in a way because the way that 10 Candles works is so ritualistic and so additive to the atmosphere that if you just played the same story but in D&D, like, yeah, you could do it.
Yeah.
But it would be a completely different vibe.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It is indeed. And so like I am owning up to the fact that there are holes in this logic because I do think that at a certain level, some mechanics are so specific to that game that you are going to get certain. I mean, you brought up Dread, and I agree that's
anything after level 15 is very game specific.
But also at the end of the day, if you're looking at it as a character based opportunity for a player,
Yeah.
Could you have played the characters that you played in another game? Probably.
I mean, you've proven this with Jack and some other characters.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly tried to. I mean, and I think we've also kind of touched upon this also as players. We all have archetypes, which we kind of gravitate towards as players.
Yeah.
And no matter what system you're in, you're going to probably play that archetype a little bit.
Is this your backdoor to the BuzzFeed question?
Sure. Yeah. So let's backdoor into a BuzzFeed thing. If you were a class in real life, what would it be? I don't know. Like
Shade is like, for the listener, off-mic Shade has been slowly trying to distance himself from this idea that he came up with.
Then it came up and I spouted out because Rio said something and I was like, yeah, that's pretty barbarian coded. He'd be a barbarian.
To answer this question real fast, sure. I actually do think that I may be bard or rogue in that, not that I'm like some hyper charismatic person, but I feel like I'm pretty good at whatever I try, but I'm never super excellent at one thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if I try a new sport, I can pick it up pretty fast, but I'm not going to be like,
what a jock.
I can paint minis okay, but I'm not like an expert mini painter.
What a jock. Painting minis is the most jock version of being
art.
a D&D nerd.
And
yeah.
Honestly, evolutionarily, you'd be the most likely to survive.
It's true.
A large event.
Yeah. Well, that's
adaptability.
There you go.
Additionally, the saying "Jack of all trades, master of none" has more to it.
Yeah, which is like that's a bad thing.
Though oftentimes better than master of one.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it's better to have a wide, diverse skill set.
Which is what our economy has tricked us into thinking is the opposite.
I love how sayings get completely bastardized. I'm kidding. I don't love that.
What characters are you guys, real quick?
Yeah.
I'm a barbarian because I'm an immigrant. So.
Damn it, dude. Not cool.
I can say that.
You need to get out of here with your right-wing bullshit.
I can say that. It's true.
God.
I know it doesn't sound like it because my English is impeccable, but but it's true. Does it sound like I'm being sarcastic? I am. I was born in a different country.
You are. We're having fun right now.
Is this like the first instance of trad immigrant?
Trad immigrant.
I don't even know
this
what
is
that
how
means.
immigrants are from in the 50s. I'm going to be like that.
What?
So
just like the whole self-claiming, I'm a barbarian.
Yeah.
I'm an immigrant. I don't know.
It's usually the other way. It's usually like immigrants like kind of policing each other's behavior and being like, oh, well, I'm not like them and I'm blending into the ruling class or whatever. So they love doing that.
So what's your real?
See, I really
barbarian because I'm an immigrant.
Okay, great.
Did you fucking
Can you extrapolate a little bit on that?
That's it. That's the whole purpose.
I truly love when he's like, oh yeah, it sounds like I'm being sarcastic though, right? Like I am being sarcastic. And then you ask again, he's like, I'm going to be this. This is exactly what I said.
My subclass is obstinate.
I mean, that
Barbarian
I believe.
path of the obstinate.
That I believe. But I will say, I tried to shoot down my own idea and be like, nah, let's not even. Then you're like, are you going to backdoor here? And I'm like, okay, sure, let's do it. And you're like,
I wanted to do it. I thought it was funny. I thought it'd be funny, and I was right. This is hilarious. People are loving it. They're like, we're going to cancel Franco because he's not really an immigrant. He's lying about it, and I'm not.
He's not.
Rio.
Because his English is so perfect.
Me? I'm gonna say sorcerer.
Okay.
I got a lot
Wild
of.
magic?
I'm all over the place. I do some big flashes and then I'm done.
And you
I throw fireball wherever I can.
And your bloodline is really important to you.
My bloodline is super important.
It's really important for you to.
Was this a plan?
oh my god!
I didn't know he was going to say that. I'm just really funny.
Hey, I don't know that.
Oh man,
Shane, what thing are you going to say that Franco's going to be able to take you downtown for?
Can't wait for this. Let's sign it up.
Fighter, because
This is just me canceling Gygax every episode.
Fighter, because I'm a basic bitch.
Wow, it's beautiful.
So you use violence to solve a lot of your problems?
Don't they all?
Eventually.
Eventually. If it gets to it.
How dark.
Remember, kids, violence is always the answer. They only want you to believe it's not, so you don't rise up and resist.
That's 100% right.
So back to the system stuff. That was a nice little detour.
Was it?
I'm glad that we did it.
Was it? I regret that random thought earlier.
I love everything that just
That'll
happened.
teach you to speak your ideas into
No,
existence.
this is honestly a great example of why you think before you speak.
Yeah.
No, that just takes up time.
I thought about that joke for a really long time.
Yeah.
Are there any systems where you're like, this is like so specific that you can't really play anything else?
10 candles for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monopoly.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, this is, I guess, another way that I'll just argue with myself on this, and maybe I'm just.
Well, I'm just thinking like
Completely
maybe
wrong.
IP
rhetorical
based stuff,
based.
like
But
Witcher,
like
something like that?
Warhammer was what
Yeah.
came to mind. Like, I think could I do a Warhammer game in a different system? Yeah, but I will say meat grinder, and strategy forces kind of things. That is slightly just very different.
That is more of a war game though, which
Yeah.
I think is kind of separate from TTRPGs. Warhammer does have TTRPGs.
It does, yeah.
And I would say like in those cases, I think you're right in that anything that is super tied into IP has made itself that way and like based all of its mechanics off of trying to encapsulate a feel of a very specific.
We were running into that when we did a Fallout one
yeah.
shot. It's very based on trying to give you the feeling of the video game
Yeah.
without the computer to run all of the background stuff they want you to keep track of.
had fun though.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
Are we never going to play it again? Why did we describe it
No,
as
it's
a
just,
play it
just
today.
happening tonight.
Oh, you described it as a one-shot.
No, I don't think it.
Oh, it is a one shot.
I don't think it can happen.
Maybe we'll find out depending on how long this goes.
You'll just abandon your other responsibilities.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just like interested because like IP, I could see it being a little bit more specific. But I think
Come
get
on.
the fuck out of here, man. But I can also see you playing 10 Candles, but being a Warhammer crew. You know what I mean? Like you can do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess it really just kind of comes down to a difference between genre and system. Like genre can go anywhere, sort of, and
Yeah.
Because wouldn't that like tie into the fatalism of the Warhammer? Like, oh, we're all gonna die.
Yeah. I mean, like you could play.
But can you kill the Tyranid tyrant overlord in time?
It's so funny. You are so close. You're
I
actually
know.
really close.
I was trying.
I mean, he kind of got it.
Yeah, I mean, the Norn Queens are very much like that. So.
It's like when I talk about like Fallout and what's the other game? Borderlands being the same game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that.
A lot of similarities.
But is there any game that you
Exactly
can think
the
of where it's like, this is so specific, I can't do anything except play whatever this game is asking me to? I think maybe like Print Weaver or something, where you're using a very specific
it's
character
like D&D.
creation.
Yeah, I think that we haven't had a chance to really run it yet, but what I've read out of it, has a specific character creation, but I don't think that really is going to impact my character.
Yeah.
What about that game you hated, Nick? Arhant. Remember how much you hated that game?
Yeah, I do. I remember what you're referring to, Franco. But yeah, no, I think that Arhant is one of those games where you could bring in your D&D characters and have like a very specific type of story, but told in Arhant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know
I'm
what
also
I mean?
thinking A Quiet Year would be hard because it's a very specific
Yeah.
build
And
a
it's also
world
like a
game.
non-personal.
Zooming out,
Yeah.
It's a big old zoom out.
Yeah, but to your point, like now that we're naming these systems, I'm like, yeah, it is totally different. But you could also be like, in this like session, what we are doing is creating the fallout from this event that happened in our game.
Fallout's
And
already in IP.
and I guess at the end of the day, this is also the thing that I'll throw out there is you can pick a system and then just cannibalize from the other systems anywhere you want.
Yeah.
Like I would 100% if I ever wanted to.
That's called the hack in the lingo.
A hack. That's right. If I wanted to grimly end our Waterdeep game, I would throw us into a tin candle for the ending.
Yeah,
I might do that.
yeah, that could be fun.
End him rightly.
Gross.
Maybe Toril will fall into darkness.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be fun.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Kulaga finally eats us all. That's a great idea.
Any other thoughts on the differences between the 5Es? Because like, or
5e and
5Es.
current
The
D&D.
5Es.
The two
Yeah.
5Es, yeah.
Because
a tale of two 5Es.
a tale of two 5Es.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we just jump into that,
Call them
some
2 5e, 'cause there's
improvements
2
that I feel have come out of it. I really like a lot of the new class stuff, generally speaking.
I think it's very intuitive and it
Yeah.
feels very much the same as before
Yeah.
to me. There's like a couple of very specific situations, like the one I said earlier, but like, yeah,
and it feels like a good rebalance. Like I really think druids need to be put in check. Monks somehow got
They need to know their place.
monks somehow got
Go back
more
to the woods,
powerful.
druids.
These are fucking animal people.
Monks got more powerful. Rangers pretty much a little better, but honestly,
Lateral move.
They still don't know what to do with rangers.
Yeah, they really don't.
I feel like the only reason why Ranger's the class is because of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And they
Ranger needs to
call
be a
Aragorn-
subclass of fighter.
Yeah.
So did Paladin. You know, there is a really interesting video that I watched by Kelsey Dion. Kelsey Dion? The maker of Shadow Dark? That's her name, right? I better check.
So what happened in the episode?
Let's dead air it while I get the right name.
What episode? Episode of what?
So, stop it. Please. Yeah, there's this interesting video that I watched by Kelsey Dion, who's the maker of Shadow Dark, where she was making, I think as like a stretch goal or something from like the Kickstarter for Shadow Dark, which is basically like another kind of old school D&D kind of game, and it's kind of pitched as a bridge from 5e
To something else.
for people who are interested in the OSR.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, here's like kind of like an in-between bridge or whatever. So she was designing a ranger class because she was trying to figure out, and like kind of live with like chat or whatever, with like a live stream. And she designs it kind of thinking about like herbalism and then also fighting, but then like not being as good as the fighter and like having the same kind of skills tree, or not tree, but like kind of like, you know, it's like, okay, thinking about like the thief and stuff like that. But I guess kind of focusing on like, okay, what is a ranger really? Like how is a ranger different? And ultimately I think what they came up with was like foraging.
Yeah.
And so there was kind of like a foraging skill type of thing that was kind of put into that.
I feel like for me, like Ranger to me is like you're more mobile, you're stealthy, and you're like a scout almost. And like that's the way I would go about it. But I can also see the sort of herbalism side. It's just that feels very much like what the fuck, artificers.
Maybe Ranger's like a rogue build
Maybe.
without all the pickpocketing and more
Scout.
map making.
Scout's cool. But yeah, well, and I should also say that like the herbs would be like really powerful things, you know, like healing things or damage dealing things and stuff like that, like really special things. But then also
coating
like
your stuff with poison. And
yeah,
stuff.
but then like you can also like just forage like normal stuff or whatever at any given point, like just like normal stuff, rations, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Whenever thinking about roles and that kind of stuff, it goes back to our do systems matter as well. It's sort of like I feel like D&D has almost too many classes for them all to feel completely distinct from each other.
Yeah.
But I also think that there are classes like classless systems that we've played, and that also feels very like similar enough to a D&D character sheet that it's like you can do whatever you're going to do. You know what I mean?
I think what's cool about classless systems that still have like the D&D veneer of like kind of being like, here are the stats, here's what you can do, that type of thing. It like lets you sort of mold your own path. And I've noticed this basically every time I've run a classless system for people and being like, oh, okay, I have this much HP, this much strength, this much dex, this much willpower, whatever. Okay, so maybe I'll be like the tank or something like that. Well, whenever we get into a fight. Or like I'll be like, you know, this kind of archetype or like this role in combat or whatever, even though the game isn't really about combat always. Like I'm just thinking of Karen mostly. But it's like interesting that people have been kind of socialized into thinking like about games in these ways where you're kind of like, I'm the tank, I'm DPS, I'm the healer, I'm whatever. Yeah. You know, and then, but like the classlessness kind of encouraging people to break out of those molds whenever they need to, because everything that is sort of defined is just like the stuff that you carry on you, and then like you as a player, how you play. Yeah. Or like how you want to play this type of character based on their background and their vibe or whatever. So I think that can lead to like different types of play where you're kind of thinking outside of the box of class.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that where I kind of come down on this is that the only reason I select specific TTRPGs over others are one of two things. One is either DM comfort of like I feel very comfortable running something in this, and then the second being does this fit the type of story I'm trying to tell, like vibes wise of like horror or Western or whatever, like genre. Like I think you can do yourself a lot of favors by fitting a system that is meant for that vibe, rather than trying to fit your favorite system into that. But
I agree.
I'd play a game that was just character creation, was just choose your vibes.
choose your vibes.
Yeah,
Nothing else.
Yeah.
This is you got a red vibe.
Ooh.
You got a blue vibe. What does that mean?
City of
now
Mist.
you're a purple character.
I take a few levels in blue, and now I'm a purple character.
City of Mist is kind of like that in that you are channeling a archetype in the like a story archetype, and so you could be channeling the archetype of like the evil stepmother, but like that as a archetype in fiction, and then all of your abilities come out of that sort of idea. So
they did it. That was the D20 Fairy Tales season.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's very much like that, where you're like, okay, so I'm building a character vibes wise. He's like a hard-boiled PI, and he wants to save the world through vengeance. Okay, maybe he's channeling Batman, and just do that. You know?
I really thought you were going to say hard-boiled egg.
It's
I did too.
it's giving Batman.
It's giving Batman.
It's
exactly.
giving Humpty Dumpty hard-boiled egg.
Can we put them back together again?
Find out.
Yeah. Anyone else have any thoughts on this?
Just a crime noir. Humpty Dumpty.
Sat on a wall.
It's the Humpty.
He used to be soft. Now he's hard-boiled and back on the streets.
Humpty, how was your fall?
Not as bad as my winter's gonna be. Great. I think I was gonna say something, but doesn't matter. I guess. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's at the end of the day, I don't think this is like a really hard hitting like
No, but I think it's interesting to think about it.
truism or anything.
It's
I-
okay, Shade. Don't down yourself too much.
No.
about
I'm
this
just saying
question.
that, like, it is a general kind of feel of, I'm pretty content to play most games.
Yeah,
Because I'm going to get the same experience.
it's very interesting in contrast with the general vibes of the community, which is like so like it's almost like console wars where
Yeah.
you're like loyal to a system.
Yeah.
And I feel,
PS5.
but I feel like it's sort of the thing is like it actually doesn't matter. You can do whatever story in all of these systems, but
Yeah.
it really does end up being sort of like a preference.
Yeah.
Place.
I completely disagree.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay,
of course.
hit me with it.
Well, I just think like a lot of games sort of lead themselves to certain types of play just by the mechanics, right?
Yeah,
like it's like the ludo narrative consonants.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of like 5e and Pathfinder and stuff leads more to like the story here, the superhero style of play, versus like if you're playing like the Arkham horror thing or whatever, or Cairn or any kind of like OSR game, like you're just like a grubby little asshole who's just like going around trying to do whatever, and then like you're not necessarily going to be the big damn hero and stuff. You're just kind of like working your way up to be a hero at all.
Right.
Versus being like, okay, I have now gained enough experience points and now I've been able to do enough things that I can take on an army of 20 people.
Yeah.
And I'm not even bat an eye.
But it's also interesting because like I have played a D&D 5e game where death was very around every corner, and I never felt like I was powerful enough to just not think about how to get through a situation. And the way that the GM sort of did that was I think max level was sort of like level 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And you just sort of keep people at lower levels and you play that way. So like
Totally.
So like I agree that like the system is asking you to be like, hey, if you want to do these superhero antics, that you can do that, but you can kind of also be the grubby people. You just play at levels 1 through 5 and basically nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, you can, but I think it's sort of like the game sets itself
Yeah,
up.
right.
to-
It's not what
yeah.
the game wants you to do. You
Not
know?
necessarily, yeah.
No, and for sure, I agree with you on that. I think if I wanted to run those games in any system, I could put in a little extra elbow grease.
Yeah.
And like if everyone said, I really, really want to go back to 4E, or I really only want to do Monster of the Week, I could still run my Waterdeep game.
When people say that, I just say, great, you're running for a game.
Yeah, but I mean, yes, you're right. But also I could run my Waterdeep game in there and I'd figure it out.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, if you like Tabletop, head to our website, tabletopppod.com. There's a contact form there that you can get in touch with us with your questions about TTRPGs. You can also go to our Patreon, patreon.com/tabletop, if you want to get more behind-the-scenes stuff from the show. And if you join as a member, you can also get some other goodies like modules and extra episodes. All right, everyone. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye. Later.